darkness, I rose up. Gold in my soul, it's a gold rush. Honor and freedom, I toast up. Kicking game on the snare drum. Heart on the beat, let it bleed out like sacrifices. Cut it open, emotions. Spilling like oil and coasting. Therapy for my mental, I'm pinning a pistol and shoot down the criticisms. Individually, I heard the voices that told us. Throw dirt on my name and wish me the worst and scold us, Shot through the heart and pray on my downfall. But Young T prevailed on my outlaw. Stand on top of the table like John Wall. Got the cross on my chest like Olympic gold. Rap it smooth on the floor like a jazz song. Witness greatness, look up in LeBron home. Remember next time for you doubt us. That only made me go John Jones. HGH, I got the shortcut. God on my side, you got bad luck. Look at how they all doubt us, they doubt us, Underrated, we the underdogs, underestimated, Underrated, we the underdogs, underestimated, we the ones, we the ones, we the ones, we the ones,
Just a sentimental kid with a little bit of attention deficit. Hyperactive disorder, always out of order. I never had a chance though, but I would've wished on every single sad song. Never really knowing the moments I was groaning was zoning by the opponent. Opponent kids like me, Satan sees an opportunity, making me feel immunity. As long as my community can sin like me, there's nothing more you need than you can be at peace for your life. And realize I was swallowing lies instead of my pride, and I had to give my life to the eternal prize. Now I'm underrated, we the underdogs, underestimated, Underrated, we the underdogs, underestimated, we the ones, we the ones, we the ones,
Hey everyone, welcome to the 5th installment of the Stand Up and Vote Trivia Show, a game show about voting hosted by Zoomies and Voto Latino to show you why your voice and your vote matters. I'm Camille, coming from you live from Texas.
And I'm Danny, also from Voto Latino, coming to you from Washington, D.C. We're excited to be hosting today and stoked to be partnering with Zoomies this year to continue to help inspire and activate your community to stand up and vote for the issues that matter to you.
We have 2 special guest contestants who will be joining us to compete. Today's trivia will be all about climate change and how your vote impacts it. Throughout today's show, we want to remind you that one of the most powerful ways you can fight climate change and to protect the environment is through your vote. When we vote, we can send a loud and clear message that we want our leaders to implement policies that reduce carbon emissions, protect our ecosystems, keep our water and air clean, punish polluters, and create a new sustainable energy system for the 21st century. With that being said, on today's topic, I'm here to remind you that for every question our contestants get right, you all will win Zoomies Stash points. Each contestant will have 2 lifelines to ask you all for help if they run into trouble. Hit that chat to help them out when the time comes.
We're really excited for this edition of the show because Arbor has given us a snowboard to give away to 1 lucky winner. So thank you to Arbor. For a chance to win a new board, you can drop a question for us or Marie, or tell us what you're standing up and voting for and why in the chat. At the end, we'll pick a random winner from all the chat submissions. After the show, we'll also answer a few of your questions and announce who's going home with this rad new board to ride around this winter. So before we jump in, let's talk for a second. Many of us are probably going to be voting by mail this November. So do yourself a favor and request your absentee ballot today. Don't wait until the last minute. Go to vote.org/absentee-ballot to request your absentee ballot now. 34 states allow you to request your absentee ballot without an excuse. So let's be honest, a raging global pandemic should be enough of an excuse for all of us to vote by mail. So make sure to request your ballot today, fill it out early, and mail it back early to be sure that your vote is counted. If you're not already registered to vote, don't wait. Head over to zoomies.com/standup or votolatino.org to get registered.
Speaking of being counted, if you or your household haven't already filled out the census, you still have time to be counted. Go to 2020census.gov. It literally takes less than 5 minutes to get counted. This is super, super, super important, and I can't stress it enough. When you get counted in the census, you help your community get its fair share of more than $675 billion per year in federal funds. This funding is spent on schools, hospitals, roads, public works, other really vital programs in your area. Businesses use census data to decide where to build factories, offices, and stores. This creates jobs. And, despite what you may have heard, there's no citizenship question on the 2020 census. So again, go fill it out. The deadline to do so is September 30th. Visit 2020census.gov for more information. All right, well, let's jump in and welcome our contestants.
So our first contestant is Marie Francois from Arbor. Welcome, Marie, and thank you for joining us.
Of course, thanks for having me. This is exciting.
Yeah, where are you coming to us from?
I'm currently in Ucluelet, Vancouver Island, BC, in Canada, and it's a beautiful day out. And yeah, I'm stoked to take some time though to talk about climate change.
Yeah, we're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Our second contestant is Ryan Johnson from Zoomies. Thank you so much for joining us, Ryan.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, where are you joining us from?
I am the district manager out of Austin and San Antonio, Texas. So I'm currently in New Braunfels, Texas. And yeah, it's not as nice as it is in where Marie is. So it's raining and stormy here. So.
Awesome. Before we get going, I have a question for you both. Ryan, if you'd like to answer it first, that would be awesome. Why is voting so important to you at both the local and national level?
For me, it's about, I've always voted since I was able to vote, and it's a way for us to be heard and have things that are important to us, be vocalized through our vote. And, I'm a big proponent for reform in certain areas like police reform and things like that. So it's important for me to get my voice out and to make sure that I also am a voter registrar for Texas. So it's important to make sure that other people understand the importance of them voting and having their voice heard as well.
Yeah, thank you much for registering your community and speaking to that. That's awesome to hear. I have also been a deputy voter registrar here in Texas. It has a fancy title to it, but it's something that's super important. Marie, what about for you? Why do you vote at both the national and local level?
I think it's really important to vote because it's obviously the most powerful and easy tool we have to take action and express what we want from our leaders. And although I'm Canadian, so I cannot vote right now in this coming election, but I think it's important to understand that no matter where we are in the world, the decisions that get made from our leaders affect, everyone globally. So that's why I think as Canadians, Americans, we are actually also huge emitters per capita. So we need to take action the most, be leaders. And if everyone can stand up and vote, that's already a huge part that we're doing.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That was so well said. I'll plug that voter registration link right here and right now. Before we dive in, visit zoomies.com/standup to check your registration status and be sure that you're registered to vote this November. All right, well, let's dig in. We're going to alternate between the two of you asking questions. I'll ask Marie the first question, Ryan the second, and so on. I'll ask the first set of questions. Danny will ask the second set of questions. I want to remind you all that you have 2 chances to use a lifeline to ask the audience for help. To our audience, remember, for every question our contestants answer correctly, we will drop a code in the chat that you can redeem Zoomy stash points with. All right, well, Marie, let's get it started. Question number 1, it's multiple choice. What percentage of Americans now rank protecting the environment as highly as they do strengthening the economy? Is it A, 56%, B, 64%, C, 80%, or D, 14%?
I am gonna go with 64%.
That's correct. So this number actually came out earlier this week. A majority of Americans now say that dealing with climate change should be a top priority for the president and Congress. Since 2016, that number has increased by 14 percentage points, which is major. This is at an all-time high. I think this is a really important statistic to dive into with this conversation.
For sure. Hopefully higher too.
Yeah, agreed. All right, Ryan, next question for you. Where do you think the US falls on the list of contributors to carbon dioxide in our atmosphere? Is it A, second, B, eighth, C, fifth, or D, third?
I'm gonna go with A, second. I believe we're second to China.
That's correct. More Zoomy Stash points for everyone. What's crazy to think about, though, is that the US is home to only about 4.4% of the world's population, yet we're the second largest emanator of greenhouse gases. If everyone in the world burned fossil fuels and lived the way the US does, it would take for Earth to have enough resources for us all.
Cool.
All right, Marie, next question for you. In 1910, the Glacier National Park in Montana in the US was filled with approximately 150 glaciers. When the glaciers were recounted in 2017, the number dropped to A, 75, B, 53, C, 38, or D, 26.
They're all really sad numbers. I'm gonna go with D, 26.
That's sadly correct, and it's sadly the lowest number on that list. You know, the glaciers were recounted in 2017, so 3 years ago, to get that 26 number. This is bad news. The melting ice will cause rise in sea levels and will increasingly affect people in areas that depend on water from melting glaciers. Yeah, very sad to hear that so many have melted, but important to note.
I have
All right,
a question.
Ryan. Yeah.
How often do
sure.
they count those? How often is that counted? Do we know?
Let me do a quick fact check. I will get right back to you.
You're trying to get to win points on me, Ryan? So what's that?
I mean, I told you I'm trying to win, man.
I like it. Whatever it takes.
All right. Well, I haven't found anything quite yet, but we'll try to get an answer out to you, and we'll definitely report back.
Awesome. I was stalling because I was trying to think about the next question.
It's a trick.
All right, Marie, next question for you. The average sea level, I'm sorry, Marie, did you ask the last question?
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Wow, this all flustered me. Ryan, it's yours. All right. The average sea level is expected to rise between blank and blank meters before the end of the century. So here's a lot of numbers. It's multiple choice. So expected to rise between 0.5 and 1.5 meters is A. B, 1.5 and 2.5 meters. C, 0.0 and 0.5 meters. Or D, none at all.
I believe the answer is, say it, can repeat the, I don't think it's any of those. I think it's different. I mean, it's supposed to rise, but none at all sounds like it's not going to rise. So I don't know if that, you're saying none of those choices at all. Is that what we're going at? Okay.
I mean,
yeah.
that is an answer. Definitely, you can use your lifeline, want to plug that.
I'm gonna go with,
happy to repeat them.
yeah. I feel like it's none of those answers that you supplied. I think that's the D. None at all is the right.
So,
no, yeah, wait a minute. It's meters, right?
it's meters. So remember, a meter is like 3.3 feet.
Right. Ah, man. So, can I have the choices one more time?
Of course. So the average sea level is expected to rise between 0.5 and 1.5 meters is option A, B 1.5 and 2.5 meters, C 0.0 and 0.5, or D none at all.
It's definitely going to rise, so none at all would be the wrong answer. So I'm going to go with A.
That's
0.5.
correct.
Yeah, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
We got there.
Yeah, it was, whew, you almost got me, Murray. I almost dropped the ball.
Yeah,
Hey, that
you
was a lot of numbers. I feel like I don't really know how big a meter is too, so happy to repeat that. All right, Marie, next question for you. Which year was the second warmest year on record? A, 2016, B, 2017, C, 2018, or D, 2019?
I know that the hottest was 2016, and it seems like they're all getting hotter every year. So I'm gonna go with D, 2019.
That's correct.
Marie just logics everything.
What's crazy to note is that the 5 warmest years between the years 1880 and 2019 have all occurred since 2015. This just goes to show that climate change is obviously so real and really affecting so many things. All right, Ryan, next question to you. What percent of greenhouse gas emissions due to deforestation? A, 4%, B, 7%, C, 11%, or D, 15%?
I believe the answer is C, 11%.
That's correct. This is a heated competition. You guys are killing it.
Stash points are on the line for everyone. Gotta.
All right, Marie, next question to you. Natural climate solutions such as restoring degraded forests could create as many as 39 jobs per $1 million spent. That job creation rate is more than blank times higher than the oil and gas industry. Is it A, 2% higher than oil and gas, B, 6%, C, 4%, or D, 3%?
I mean, they all are good, all better than not. I'm gonna go with the six one. I don't know which letter that was.
B, and that is correct. Logic team is working. I'll repeat that again. So natural climate solutions, such as restoring degraded forests, would create as many as 39 jobs per $1 million spent. That creation rate is more than 6 times higher than the oil and gas industry. That just goes to show, it's so important to vote for elected officials that care about the environment, care about, really creating jobs that create proactive solutions for the environment. Yeah, I really enjoyed learning that statistic.
Let's create jobs. Do it.
Let's do it. I agree. All right, this is the last question I'm asking before I kick it over to Danny, but it goes to you, Ryan. What percentage of the world's population is currently vulnerable to climate change impacts? Is it A, 25%, B, 11%, C, 5%, or D, 13%?
It's either A or B. B was 11%.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, 11. I'm gonna go B. B, 11%.
That's, more stash points for everyone. That answer is correct. I'll let Danny do a lifeline check-in, but this competition's heated. I'm excited to see the end result.
Yeah, so we are still at 2 lifelines available for both Ryan and Marie. So remember, guys, if you get stumped, you can ask the audience and see if they can help you out in getting more stash points. So the next question is for Marie. Which of these is a more cost-effective way to fight climate change? A, conserving ecosystems, B, human-made interventions, or B, human-made interventions. It's a either or.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like it's conserving ecosystem, but I just want to get the audience involved. So how about we ask what they think?
Cool. So Marie's going to use her lifeline. So drop your answer in the chat, what you think is the correct answer, and I'll repeat the question and the options. So which of these is a more cost-effective way to fight climate change? Conserving ecosystems or human-made intervention? We'll give it a second for you guys to get your answers in.
Thanks, guys. Rescue me. I just feel like nature is always so resilient and powerful. We seem to always just get in the way.
Okay, so with some audience answers coming in, Marie, do you think you know?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the audience is down with A too, so let's go with the whole family.
Yeah, well done, everyone. Conserving ecosystems is more cost-effective than man-made intervention. One example is in the Maldives, preserving natural coral reefs is 4 times cheaper than building a seawall for coastal protection, including 10 years of maintenance costs. So let's do what we can to protect what's already there instead of having to build our own stuff. Seems like it makes sense. So Ryan, next question for you. What would it take to make the changes humanity needs to adapt to a warming world? A, $104 billion per year, B, $200 billion per year, C, $500 billion per year, or D, $2 trillion per year? And sorry, Marie, that's in American.
No.
So American dollars.
Yeah.
What was A?
A was $140 billion per year.
And C? Those are much. A and C?
C is 500 billion.
I mean, I think it's A, but I'll also use a lifeline.
Okay.
I'll poll the audience as well.
Cool. So again, drop your answers in the chat, and here's the question again. What would it take to make the changes humanity needs to adapt to a warming world? And this is in US dollars. $140 billion per year, $200 billion per year, $500 billion per year, or $2 trillion per year. And we'll let that fill up for a second. Okay, so we have a bunch of answers across the board. Which one are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with my gut, which was A. I thought the first time I thought you said 104, but it's 140 billion, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with A. 140.
A is correct. $140 billion per year is what would take to make the necessary changes that humanity needs to adapt to a warming world. That's less than 0.2% of global GDP. And the longer we wait to act on that, the more that cost will grow. So we better start spending that money now in order to be better prepared later. Okay, so I think we are tied at 5. Yeah, this is a competitive one. So Marie, the worst impacts of climate change could be irreversible by what year? A, 2025, B, 2030, C, 2035, or D, 2040?
From the IPCC, it's 2030.
That's correct.
We have 10 years.
Yep. I shouldn't laugh, that's sad. But yes, 2030. So in 2017, carbon emissions increased globally by 1.7%. And then in 2018, they increased again by 2.7% over the previous year. 2019 is expected to have one of the highest rates of increase on record. The UN climate report and subsequent reports have warned us that global carbon pollution must be cut in half in the next 10 years for us to avoid catastrophic, irreversible damage. And there's an ambulance going by my house, so I'm sorry if that's okay, so next question is for Ryan. The average wildlife populations have dropped by 60% in just over how many years? A, 60, B, 20, C, 100, or D, 40?
I know the answer to this because I do a lot for wildlife, saving the elephants and things like that. So it's 40 years. 40
is the correct answer. The average amount of vertebrates populations has declined by 60% between 1970 and 2014, according to a biennial study. Okay, we are still tied. No one's gotten a question wrong. That's impressive and a little scary. Marie, which country is moving its capital because its current one is sinking because of climate change? Is it A, Indonesia, B, India, C, Greenland, or D, Ireland?
The only place I have been, it's out of all of those, and it's Jakarta.
Okay, not only did you get the country right, but you got the city.
Indonesia.
Yeah. So yes, Indonesia has announced that they are planning to move their capital city out of Jakarta, which is home to over 10 million people, and some parts of the city are sinking as much as 25 centimeters per year. There are two factors: rising global sea levels and land subsidence. As underground water supplies have been drained away to meet people's water needs. So it's kind of a perfect storm. All right, Ryan, when was Earth Overshoot Day in 2020? Was it A, July 1st, B, August 5th, C, August 22nd, or D, September 7th?
It was whichever option was 22nd, August 22nd, 20 days after my son's birthday, August 22nd.
That's correct. C, August 22nd. For anyone who doesn't know, Earth Overshoot Day marks the day of the year when humanity's demand for ecological resources and services in a given year exceeds what the Earth can regenerate in that year. In 2000, it was September 23rd, and in 1980, it was November 4th. So that date is moving up. This year, it was August 22nd. So we are tied at 7 points apiece. So we have a tiebreaker. I guess Marie will have the first chance to answer. And if she gets it wrong, then Ryan will have a chance to answer. Oh, never mind. We're gonna ask both of you the question, and you're gonna give us the closest figure without going over. So Price is Right rules.
Price is Right.
So here's the question. Roughly how many people are currently impacted by land degradation worldwide? And right now I wish we had the Jeopardy music, but we don't.
This is great.
How many? What's the question?
I can repeat the question. Roughly how many people are currently impacted by land degradation worldwide?
Are we looking for a percentage or a number?
A number. And the current population, the total population of the world right now is 7.8 billion. So that should give you some measuring stick.
Can I just do the Price is Right thing and say 1 cent higher than whatever Marie says?
Good, yeah, you definitely could.
I'm gonna go with
your answers. Feel free.
You want to do that? Because I could just say 7.8 billion.
then I'll be wrong. I would totally lose at that point. I'm gonna go with I'll say 1.6 billion.
1.6 billion. Okay. Marie?
I'm gonna say wow, this is crazy. I'm gonna say land degradation. I'm gonna say 2 billion.
2 billion. Okay. 1.6 and 2 billion are our answers. I'm going to repeat the question. Roughly how many people are currently impacted by land degradation worldwide? The world's total population is 7.8 billion. The correct answer is 3.2 billion.
Oh.
So Marie has won on our tiebreaker.
Oh, you did it. I was rooting for you this whole time. You killed it.
3.2 billion people are currently at risk of land degradation across the world. That's roughly 35% of the world's population, which is terrifying. So land restoration is critical and cost effective. Every $1 US spent in restoration projects, on average, it generates 10 times that amount in benefits. So it's a pretty good ROI, and we need to start doing some restoration work very soon. So that's all of it, all of our questions that we have, folks. I want to thank Marie and Ryan for playing. Congratulations, Marie, for winning today's Stand Up and Vote trivia show. And thanks to the audience for your help and for tuning in.
Thanks.
So yeah, we'd love if you all would stick around, ask us any questions, whether it be about the environment, on voting, we're here to answer them. But before we do that, I'd love to announce the winner of our sweet new board from Arbor. All right, and we have that winner. The winner is J Wilson 3, J Wilson 03. I believe I said that username correct. But we're really, excited that you won, and we'd absolutely love for you to, or for us to answer this question. I'm so sorry, that was clunky, but yeah, here's that question you asked that won you a new snowboard. How can us young people push something like the Green New Deal in a conservative state like Texas where we're laughed at? I'd love, for Ryan to tackle that question, being a native Texan. Happy to talk about it together, but Ryan, if you have any initial thoughts for it.
I mean, I think the young people's voice is the most important, right? They just have to, it's about collectively coming together and getting to the polls. That's how you're going to make that happen, and supporting the individual that you feel is you got to really understand the platforms that the candidates are presenting in front of you, and doing the research that's going to help you make the most informed decision. And the young generation, your voice is the most powerful. we need you guys to get out and vote and be a part of the process. I think we've seen that in the general election in 2018, that it was incredible to see how many young people turned out to vote. So just getting to the polls and knowing who you support, knowing what their platform is, I think that's the most important thing we can do.
For sure. Being from Texas also, like within even the past couple of months, I've seen my friend like in my Instagram feed be so much more political with like what they're posting, what they're talking about. And I think that it's incredibly important to like start and continue the conversation among your peers, right? Like really just speaking to the issues that matter and making sure that you're registered and do vote for candidates that align with the issues that you care about. All right, well, we'll take some audience questions right now. Thank you all so much again for tuning in. Danny, would you like to field the first question from the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see what we got. What are good sources for making an informed vote? And I will pose that to Camille as VL's volunteer expert.
Yeah.
Where do you send people to find out what they should vote for?
Head over to votolatino.org. We have a lot of really cool information about like issues that matter, especially to the Latinx community. But we will have an election hub, an election center going live later this month that will, break down every candidate on your ballot and what issues they stand for. It'll also, show you the best ways to request a mail-in ballot, vote early if you live in a state where voting by mail isn't accessible to everyone. I'm really excited for that. There are a couple other great resources out there. Can you all think of anything to plug?
Pardon.
So I'll jump in.
Yeah.
And I'll just like suggest that everyone find credible, trusted news sources where the reporting is sourced, has very rigorous vetting and fact-checking processes, and find people who you find credible and listen to what they say, figure out what they believe on certain issues and see if the information that they're giving to you is correct. Make sure to verify with your own research, and do what you can to get the best information possible.
I can add that Protect Our Winters and the snowboarding, skiing, outdoors community is a really good platform to find out more about climate and environmental issues and on ways to activate, especially for the youth and people who like to be active. So that's a really good resource, and it's free to be a member, and just together we have a bigger voice. I'm actually on the board of directors for Protect Our Winters Canada. So it's really fun to be part of a group, and together activating is more efficient.
For sure, that's awesome to hear. I will check it out.
So our next question is going to be one that was submitted on Instagram by Clore Lauer 24. What will happen if all of the icebergs in the world melt? And I did the research on this question because the question itself terrified me. If all the ice on the world melts, the oceans are expected to rise 216 feet, which would essentially destroy many major cities, especially in the United States, where our biggest cities tend to be on the coasts. So we need to have some sort of intervention and change in our climate policies before we get anywhere near there. But if we let all the ice melt 216 feet, anything under 216 feet will be underwater. So.
At the current rate, was there any info on when that would happen?
I didn't see that, no.
Interesting.
Yeah. So our next question is going to come from Liv Ryo. Why is mail-in voting not allowed in certain states? And this one's going to go back to Camille and Ryan, because your state does not allow mail-in voting without an excuse, and they've determined that coronavirus is not an acceptable excuse to mail in a vote.
Honestly, I don't have an answer for why Texas doesn't. There's, like you said, there's no reasoning behind it, and I think the most important thing right now is that we offer the early voting, and there's a good amount of time. I think it's from October 5th through the 30th, maybe is the time frame or the 13th through the 30th, where you can get out and vote early in Texas. So I've always voted early, and it's super quick, super easy. And I think since we can't mail our votes in, and with coronavirus being such a major impact on voting this year, I think getting out early is going to be the most important thing you can do. But I don't have an answer as to why. I don't know. Maybe Camille is more informed on that than I am.
Yeah, the most, informed thing I could say is it comes down to state legislators, right? Like what election policies they want to bring forward. So it's a total bummer that as Texans, you can't vote by mail during a global pandemic. But definitely want to echo what Ryan said, voting early is likely the safest thing and way you can vote in Texas right now. Be sure, you wear a mask, you bring hand sanitizer, keep your 6-foot distance from poll workers and other folks voting. But yeah, that's, unfortunately the case. But, if you do want to check, if you can vote by mail, I'll plug our website again. If you go to votolatino.org/vote by mail, you'll be able to request a mail-in ballot if you're able to cast a ballot by mail in your state, or you'll be able to, figure out what the best thing to do is when you cast a ballot this year.
Yeah, and I'll just say this is an issue that Voto Latino is working on pretty extensively. We are pushing for universal vote by mail, so that regardless of where you live, you can mail in your ballot if you want to, and you don't have to choose between your health and your constitutional rights. We're also pushing for expanded voting days, like Ryan, or early voting days, like Ryan said, to give people more of a chance to spread out their votes, so we don't have as much crowding at the polls. We're also pushing for expanded funding for polling places so that they can fully sanitize and staff polling places so that people don't have to worry about coronavirus as much when they're voting. And then this week, or maybe last week, we got good news that the NBA is converting all of their arenas into polling places and using all that space to allow for greater social distancing while people are waiting in line to vote. So a lot of people do prefer to vote in person, and that's fine, and you have that choice. But just make sure you have a plan and you know what you're gonna do that day. Remember to take your mask, take some hand sanitizer, some wipes, whatever you think you need to be most comfortable submitting your ballot. And if you're not comfortable going in person and you live in a state with no excuse mail-in voting, you can absolutely request your ballot, but make sure to do so as soon as possible. And with that, from Billy's Blonde, how does our water use affect our future water availability? Who would like to answer that question?
I can pitch in a little bit, and you guys feel free to add on to it, but I just feel like our water use is definitely having some impact on our future availability, and also just what we talked about earlier, the glaciers disappearing. That's a huge part of our water reserves. So as those are melting, for example, in Europe, I know that's becoming a bigger issue. And even up here in Canada, we have lots of glaciers. Up here on Vancouver Island, there's 5 glaciers left only, and they're all going to disappear in the next 20 to 25 years, which definitely will affect our water storage. So not only our usage, but the temperatures climbing up will affect the available water. So yeah, we need to find ways to reduce and how to use it wisely in the future as well.
Yeah, I think that was a perfect answer. So thank you for that. I want to go back to a question posed by our snowboard winner, Jay Wilson 03, who followed up earlier with, can you vote in a county that is not your own? No, please don't do that. Make sure to vote only in the county that, not only the county that you're registered, but also in the voting district in which you're registered. It may be a little different this year because of coronavirus, but when you register to vote, they will tell you exactly where your polling place is. Like mine is an elementary school nearby. There's a very specific place that you need to go to vote. So check out your state or your county's election website to see if that has changed due to COVID, but please don't vote outside of your designated district because that is voter fraud and don't get in trouble.
Danny, in Texas during early voting right now, you can vote in your county, but at any poll, during only during the early voting phase. So that's, okay. I think he was from Texas as well.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's a great example. Voting laws are handled by states, and every state can determine how they want to implement them. So make sure to check with your state and your county and your city's election guidelines and make sure you're not running against the law.
I'd love to field a question that we got on Instagram yesterday. How does global warming affect the economy?
That's a great question.
I mean, I don't want to be the one taking all the time. I just think it affects it hugely, like, because I mean, the foundation for life and any opportunity for the economy is based on like life itself, clean water, air, shelter, food, and like climate change is really directly influencing our ability to grow food. For example, the snowboard industry, the ski and snowboard industry is hugely impacted by climate change, and that's an enormous amount of jobs that will disappear, just the outdoors in general, if we keep seeing more fires and more storms and just people's lives, like just, you know, having all those hurricanes and having to move away. People in the Marshall Islands, like they potentially will have to leave their island because they're like going underwater. So I just think all these things hugely affect our economy, it affects immigration, social justice, and it's just like the one thing, like I care about so many different causes in the world, but I think climate change is almost the most important because it makes every other issues worse, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a perfect answer, I think.
I was just going to echo that. Oh, good. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Ryan.
I was just going to say, you know, if you look at just farming in itself, how the climate has impacted farmers and their ability to grow different produce and things like that, the climate change really affects that, and that directly impacts the economy. It impacts the money they can make as farmers, and also impacts what they can send to markets for those businesses to thrive. So yeah, I think that's huge. Maria's on it. That's why she won the competition.
You are on it.
It was close. You don't have to be so hard on yourself.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take another question from Instagram. Let's see what we've got. Oh, here's a good one. What's the difference between climate change and global warming? Let's get this cleared up for people. Anyone?
I was going to say one is the result of the other, right? Like, I mean,
yeah. Yeah, that's correct. So global warming is the cause of our changing climate. As temperatures rise, climate patterns change. We get more severe storms like Hurricane Sandy in New York that basically devastated the city. The fires that we're seeing in California and Oregon right now, where if you look up pictures, the sky is bright red in Oregon. So global warming is the cause of climate change. It is man-made. This is what 99% of scientists have agreed on. And it's up to all of us to push our lawmakers to enact the policies that we need in order to reverse it or at least ameliorate some of the harm. But also we each have an individual responsibility to do things that will kind of cancel out our own impact on climate change.
Another question from Instagram that we got yesterday: how can we fix climate change? Like, what action can I take? I'm really curious to hear what you all think about this question.
You want to start, Ryan, and I'll add where I can?
I mean, I think there's a lot of things that we can do as individuals. It starts in the home, like how you start to recycle and keep things out of landfills. When you talk about, I mean, there's so many things you can grow your own food can impact climate change. Like, you know, having your own garden, things like that. I mean, even carpooling can impact climate change, putting less emissions out into the world. So if you're traveling to work, how do you find people that you can carpool with versus everybody driving separately? I mean, those are some things I can quickly think of.
Those are great. I think that we can reduce the amount of meat we eat. I'm not even fully vegetarian, but I've reduced by probably 90%, and that feels really good. And there's so much else that we can do at home, like, yeah, reduce, reuse, recycle, but also I feel like if we want, right now we need big scale change. And in order to get that, like the most efficient way is to create a movement. And I think we've really seen the impacts of that with Greta Thunberg. And I feel like if anything, we need to come together. So join an effective group, make it fun. Like, you know, it's less scary when you're with friends, and like start a conversation without confrontation, without violence, but let's talk about it and let's support each other. And I think that standing up for what we believe in and for what matters for the life of all people and species on Earth is really important right now.
Totally. I do want to add, like, I guess since I do work at Voto Latino, my mind is always on voting, obviously. But another way we could fix this is by voting, by keeping our elected officials accountable. Again, visit zoomies.com/standup to register if you're not registered quite yet, or, you know, text that link to 2 or 3 of your closest friends, see if they're registered, and ask them to do it on their phone if they're not. That's really, you know, what it comes down to is effective policy can be made to really make a difference if we have the right people in office.
All right, well, I think that was our last question of the evening. So Camille, take us out.
That sounds fantastic. I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. I really want to thank Marie from Arbor and Ryan from Zoomies for joining us. Do either of you have, you know, some last words for our audience?
Maria, I'll let you go first.
Okay. Thank you guys for having us on the show, and thanks for all the work that you do to get people out there to vote and vote for leaders that will care about climate change and, you know, hopefully put a bright future ahead of us for everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would just say, just make sure that you get registered to vote and you participate and vote. And then also just know what you're voting for, you know, get educated on why you're participating and why it's what you're passionate about. Make sure that you research and do your homework before you get out to the polls so you make a great decision. So.
For sure. We really hope that our viewers, that you guys learned a thing or two about climate change and how our votes can really make a difference on this issue. Again, I want to plug the census one last time. If you haven't filled it out or you don't know if your parents have, ask them or go to 2020census.gov to complete it. The deadline to do so is September 30th, the last day of this month. This year is extremely important. We need to register to vote and actually show up, whether that be by mail or in person. Let's make sure to do our part, educate our peers, and demand for our voices to be heard. That's really how we create change. Keep listening and keep learning.
If you like the show and you want to support Voto Latino to register even more voters and activate your community, you can donate your Zoomy stash points to Voto Latino. Look for the donate to Voto Latino activity, and for every 10,000 points spent, Zoomies will donate $5 to Voto Latino so we can continue registering voters to vote before November's general election, November 3rd. So we mentioned at the beginning, but if you haven't requested an absentee ballot and you live in a state where mail-in voting is allowed, please go to vote.org/absentee-ballot to request your absentee ballot as soon as possible. You don't have to wait in line. You can do everything right from your home and then mail it back early and make sure that your vote is counted. But before you can request an absentee ballot, you have to be registered to vote. So you can get registered to vote, learn more about the issues, and take action at zoomies.com/standup and also at votolatino.org. And if you're interested in volunteering with Voto Latino and working with CAMILLE, you can send a text volunteer to 73179 and learn all about our voting related volunteer opportunities in your area. So again, that text is volunteer to 73179. So make sure you're registered, make sure you request your absentee ballot, make sure you have a plan to vote early, wear your mask and wash your hands, and then stand up and vote. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, when you find out when you love, gotta make sure that you love them right. Yeah, when you find out when you love, gotta make sure that you love them right. Yeah, when you find out when you love, gotta make sure that you love them right. Yeah, when you find out when you love. I got a girl that compliments my fly, and when it goes down, I know she gon' ride. I finally got somebody I can call mine. My one time for the one time. I got a girl that compliments my fly, and when it goes down, I know she gon' ride. I finally got somebody I can call mine. My one time for the one time. Look, I remember when we were still in college and your girl's boyfriend friends was always trying to holler, not a lot. Change sin, stand, but they don't want these problems. Let the top fold, ride slow. Let them know I got you, never been insecure. But I don't play about you, don't care who you were before or what they say about you. We fresh like air, no pollute. We didn't came too far, this no fluke. When you on my arm, you look great. Let them hate, cause they on mute. And girl, I brought you around my mom and them. Now I can't come around without you. I got money and respect, but you know that pussy's power. Type that make any man feel rejection. I was no coward. Got your heart in my possession. Guess you can say it's ours. You fine like, let me just say you gifted. No understatement, let me rephrase it. You so exquisite. I'd be dumb if I didn't turn you into my missus. Been through your ups and downs, but with me you only get lifted. I got a girl that compliments my fly, and when it goes down, I know she gon' ride. I finally got somebody I can call mine. My one time for the one time. I got a girl that compliments my fly, and when it goes